There wouldn't have been a choice if we were living in the 60s. But as it is, slot car racers are polarized between sticking to the traditional system used by conventional slot cars and the modern appeal of digital slot cars. Here, we will walk you through the differences between the two types of slot cars. Let's begin. Conventional slot cars. Conventional slot cars are the traditional slot cars. These root from the earliest types of cars released during the 60s. As such, they pretty much pick up from the technologies used by their earlier predecessors and thus stick with the true slot cars. Although generally fun, conventional cars lack the same type of technology applied with its more modern cousins. Digital slot cars. Digital slot cars, on the other hand, are the new forms of slot cars. Among the notable differences between the types are the capacity of digital slot car tracks to allow several cars to race on two-lane tracks, thus cars can change lanes during the course of the race, better manageability of the car during the race because of the integration of precise braking systems, which are lacking with the conventional models, and the overall improved control over the car. Surprisingly, despite the advantages offered by digital slot cars, most enthusiasts prefer the good old-fashioned way of racing conventional cars. For some reason, the digital ones just don't have the same appeal as their predecessors. When choosing between conventional and digital slot cars, a few important factors should be considered. Space. The amount of space you can use for your slot car track largely determines which type you should be using. Because conventional cars require individual lanes, remember they are stuck in the same lane during the entire course. The tracks they need require plenty of space. If you can afford space, you can go for conventional cars. If you can't, the digital ones can better suit you. However, another major consideration with space is the number of drivers who would use the track. If you are just driving with your son as recreation, a conventional track may still work for you. Just use two lanes, and you're good to drive traditional slot cars without worrying about taking up too much space. However, if other slot car drivers frequent your track, it is advisable to stick with digital cars. These are best for smaller spaces. Cost. Slot car racing is a relatively expensive hobby, and it gets more expensive with digital slot cars. In general, digital slot car sets and tracks are more expensive than the conventional sets. This is because there's just too much electronics involved. However, since you only need a set for a two-lane track, you need not buy as much track as you would if you are building yourself a conventional track. Complexity. Your skills as a driver are very important when choosing which type to buy. Digital slot cars need you to get over some learning curve, as this will force you to learn the tricks of changing lanes among other things. With that said, it is way easier to drive conventional cars. Other factors that you should consider are expandability of the racetrack, convertibility of the track, as well as aftermarket value of your car, in case you are planning to sell your cars in the future.